Shalom. This is Hakam Yara ben-Emmett with another important newsworthy edition for the Torah Watchman Show International LLC, as a short name, TWSI. I was reading reports from Israeli national news known as 7. I have an app on my phone. I keep up to date. Important things are happening around the world there. It's a very good conservative newsworthy outlet for facts-based information, much better than Jerusalem Post or some of the others, or Haaretz. But what's so important in the news today is what's impacting every Jew around the world. Now, you might say, Ya'ar, you're overreacting. What are you talking about? Well, first of all, in America, all the news outlets are talking about it. The rise of anti-Semitism is enormous. I mean, it is exploding in certain parts, especially blue states and blue cities run by Democratic mayors and governors, like in Michigan, for instance. And the spread of communist, Stalinsky, Marxist, Lenin kind of rationale, worldviews, philosophy per se, which is directly polar opposite from the U.S. Constitution, the Founding Fathers, just to put it lightly. What I've seen at my young age of 61 is just like Obama years and the Biden years. After that just unbelievable amounts of anti-Semitism, Jewish hate, and then support for Hamas by these Democrat leaders, and support like Elizabeth Warren supporting the late great Ayatollah that Israelis executed essentially in Iran. The individual has blood on his hands for at least 1,000 Americans, and no telling how many Jews. So on top of that, in the war in the Middle East, the war in Iran, and everything else that supposedly is winding down, our good president is looking for another deal, instead of finishing the job. Pentagon is saying finish the job. 4-star U.S. Army retired General Kane is saying the same thing, finish the job. These are terrorists. The IRGC are terrorists. The Pentagon has said that for years. They are terrorists. And Ronald Reagan said we don't negotiate with terrorists. And now we're talking about Ankara, Turkey. The president is flown over there to will and deal with him. Now, I don't have access to the inner circle. I don't want to know. But I'm just talking about on CNN, Fox News, Breitbart, and other news outlets, and of course Israeli national news, they're talking about it. That he's going there to will and deal with Erdogan, that dictator there in Turkey. And when I say dictator, I don't say it lightly, because Turkey, I did not know this until recently, he invaded parts of Syria, parts of Greece. So he violated the sovereignty of that country. And we allowed him to do it. I'm not going to go back to a history 100 years ago, the Armenian genocide by the Ottomans, as they were once called, Turks. So the will and dealing is about sophisticated stealth aircraft. The most advanced combat aircraft in the world is the F-35 made by the U.S. Something we should be proud of to keep our country safe, right? Planes that we actually sold to Israel, who dominated the airspace essentially above the entire Middle East for decades. And they have actually modified that. It's called Israeli for desert flight and things of that nature to make them more resilient in combat. In fact, Israel is the only combat pilots, the AIF, to fly the F-35 successfully in military combat. Only very recently in this war with Iran have the F-35s ever been used in formal combat, active duty status by U.S. pilots. by our Air Force. It's a joint tactical aircraft. I mean, you could be a Marine, Navy, or Army flying that airplane. But anyway, there's been issues with Turkey purchasing this advanced technology from the U.S. for many years. In the first term of President Trump, he refused to sell these planes because Israel was completely opposed to that. It puts Israel in a position of an act of war without declaring it openly by either side. It's the same thing as the 1960s Cuban missile crisis that John F. Kennedy dealt with. You remember that from history books? Now, put yourself in Benjamin Netanyahu's shoes right now, how he's going to have to explain this to the Knesset, that Israel's friend and ally, the United States of America, where I was born in the country I love, and I sacrificed my life in defense of my country in the United States Air Force, decorated, disabled Air Force veteran, and our friend and ally of Israel feeling really deep resentment and feelings of treachery that they've been cheated. Now, you may say, why should Israel have the favoritism, per se, or the grandiose position of having the F-35s? Well, Israel has proven, especially recently in the war of Iran, that they can be trusted more than other countries. Turkey's official status is a probationary membership of the NATO. So that means they have access to most of any of the advanced technology that the U.S. has made, like Lockheed Martin, BA Systems, other companies like that, who are essentially a military-industrial war machine. They have access to all of this, and they should. NATO countries are there in case of the evil Soviet Empire may rise again from the grave, and attack Europe. Well, that hasn't happened yet. That doesn't mean it will never happen. But our focal point was Ukraine. But back to Israel and Erdogan and these F-35s. How do you feel about that? I mean, Israel has dominated the Middle East, and you've seen how they so effectively wiped out Hamas, wiped out the Hezbollah to the point of they are essentially begging for Israel to stop. The IRGC officials, what's left of them, their inner circle, is begging for U.S. and Israel to stop bombing them. Israel took out all their inner circle, not the U.S. Israel did that. Israel could have done this last year, but President Trump told Israel to disengage and not continue combat operations because he wanted a deal back then. But with the F-35, it's actually against most people in the Pentagon. This is not classified, I'm not leaking anything, I'm saying this is public. Everyone knows that Turkey has been dealing both sides, both as a so-called NATO country with the U.S. and Europe, friendly nations there, right? And Russia. They bought advanced military technology, I believe anti-aircraft missile technology from Russia. And the U.S. was pressuring Turkey for years not to do this. They did it anyway. So Turkey went against U.S. foreign policy and position by working with Russia, with obtaining this advanced missile technology, anti-air, I believe. Plus, we're going to sweeten the deal and give F-35s. What I don't understand in the news conference recently, and I just look at this, I said, what is happening here in the mind of our president? Someone who I voted for 3 times. Saying that Erdogan is a good man. I know Turkey is a good country. I don't have anything against the Turkish people. We have an air base there, Air Force air base there in Incirlik. Okay, I knew people that knocked the duty that went there. We were highly dependent on Turkey's airspace to fight successfully 2 Gulf Wars, right? That's why we have troops there. And then we hoped, in the beginning, why we made Turkey a NATO partner, probationary, because we hoped that would over time moderate behavior. But recently, the foreign minister there, since he said that Israel is the problem in the world, that Israel needs to be taken out of power, that Turkey needs to invade Jerusalem, and he's saying the same kind of things that the mullahs and IRGC has said in Iran, like death to America, death to Israel. You hear this going on. You have the sounding voice of Erdogan wearing his suit and acting civilized. Then you have the more radical Islamic base of the parliament in Turkey. You know, they are telling you the truth. It's like the schizophrenic IRGC, where the people that we negotiate with, on one side of the coin, they seem rational. In fact, Vice President Vance has talked about he can work out with these people. He gave them a hug, I think a kiss on the cheek is, that back in the Middle East that's customary, but met with them in Geneva and Pakistan and all this stuff. But what do you think about what's happening in Turkey? This is a 180-degree reverse turnaround from U.S. foreign policy position by previous U.S. president, including Trump in his first term, to sell this advanced technology to Turkey. Now, listen. In Trump's mind, he wants Turkey to be part of the Abraham Accord. That's what he wants. This is sweeten the deal and enticement. And he said that Erdogan was a good player in the Iranian war. What did he do for us? Not a damn thing. He just didn't get involved. I guess he's a good boy, right? Like Bibi. Does anything that the president tells him to do because he's the boss. He said that. I didn't. So what do you think about this? For your TWSI news report today, for Middle East news report of all things about Israel, all things about the Middle East, and all things about the United States foreign policy position around the world. I love geopolitics. I've studied this at Walter Cronkite with my father, with Walter Cronkite, ABC News, so long ago. Take care. God love you. Peace. Shalom Aleichem. Until next time.
President Trump is in Turkey right now. He said this morning he will consider selling F-35 fighter jets to Turkey, which is a reversal of a ban he put in place. You said yesterday that would, quote, upset the power balance in the Middle East. Have you made that clear to President Trump?
Yes, I have. Actually, spoke to him several times about it. And I think that everybody understands that notwithstanding the personal friendship that President Trump has with Erdogan, it doesn't make Turkey a friendly or a friendly state to the United States. To the contrary, it's a regime that's infected with the Muslim Brotherhood, which hates the United States. He harbors Hamas, the Hamas terrorists. He supports them. He finances them. He's thrown his opponents in jail, all of them. He throws more journalists in jail than anyone can understand. So he's not exactly a model ally of the United States. But even worse than that, he threatens Greece, a NATO ally. He occupies half of Cyprus, another NATO country. And the most important thing, and I put it right on the table, he threatens to destroy my country, the one and only Jewish state. His number two says that we have no place among the nations, and you know what that means. And his number three, the interior minister, says that he's looking forward to be the governor of Jerusalem.
But,
hello,
but
we're
Prime
a sovereign
Minister,
country.
Yeah, but Prime Minister, the president said this morning
and we tend to stay independent.
President said this